Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Bastille Day. Happy Mac and Cheese Day. Happy whatever it is that you are celebrating today. And there's so much to celebrate if you take the time to do so. That, of course, was Ron Brady and Angela De Niro, and they have a phenomenal new CD out, which we're going to talk about. They're in the wings waiting. Everyone, I believe that if everybody began their day with this CD, there would be absolutely no strife in the world. That's the absolute truth. So I have 6 amazing people who are making a difference in the arts waiting in the wings today, and they're all standing there. I'm waving to them now, and none of them know who I'm going to bring on first. But I'm going to bring on my first guest, and there's a reason why I'm bringing him on first. I hope he's ready, and that's DJ Salisbury, because he was scheduled to be here, 3 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago, and there was a screw up in timing, but I said, we'll make it happen, and he's here today. And DJ, I want to begin by asking, who or what are you celebrating today?
I'm celebrating the fact that I have just the best dog. He brings me so much joy. So that's what I'm celebrating today.
What kind of dog do you have?
Well, I'll give him a little cameo. Oh, he wants to play fetch now. He's a Brussels Griffon. He's my 4th of this breed because I just love the breed. They've got such big personalities. See if I can give him a little cameo. Here he is. There he is.
Oh my God. Well, I have a little Maltese. He's in the other room.
Hi, Maltese.
Yes, he's Benny.
Benny.
Bensonhurst, where we got him. He is a pandemic dog. We got him just days before the pandemic hit. And thank God, because he got us. Yes. Thank you.
You know what I mean. They give you so much joy when you may not find joy.
So I want to talk a little bit about you and what's going on with you career-wise right now. Is there a project that you're working on that you'd like to talk about?
Sure, I've got a couple. So I'm make my living mostly as a director choreographer, but I'm also a writer. And the very exciting news is in 2023, who would know? Who would have thought? I have two of my shows are having their albums distributed.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really great. The first I'll speak about is Moonshine and Mistletoe. It's been around for some time, and I'm getting a production this year. In addition to the album being released, Kevin Duda produced a beautiful album with singers in New York City. And so we're releasing that. Oh, Kevin's amazing. And it's a sweet, warm Appalachian music show. And the recording is great. It's just taken a couple of years to sort of get it out there, but it's going to be out. And then interestingly, I'm having my show produced in Orlando area in November of this year. So it'll have the album and the show on stage, which is great.
Fingers are crossed on everything. I want to ask you, and I hope you don't mind where I'm about to go with this next question. But two of our major unions, the Writers Guild, you mentioned you're a writer, the Writers Guild of America, and now SAG-AFTRA have gone on strike. As an artist, it has gotten progressively harder and harder and harder to make a living in this business.
Yes, it has.
And anyone who is in this business who doesn't understand, would you like to give your perspective on what's going on right now and your thoughts on everything?
Well, I am completely in understanding that AI is something that must be addressed specifically for actors and writers. But with actors, if they can take your image and replicate it whenever and wherever they want, meaning the producers, that's problematic because that is your business, that your livelihood is your instrument is your body and your image. So I know that those things must get put into some form of protections there must be protections for the actor in that respect. And then with the writers, I've long held that gain sharing, the concept of gain sharing is something the theater industry really should utilize. We don't tend to, but it should be true because if one person makes money, you know, the old saying, you can't make a living, but you can make a killing. Well, that really means producers and other people can't make a living, but producers can make a killing if a show's a hit. So why is it not true that the people that contribute to getting the show to be a hit continue to share in the gains? I'm a fan of that particular kind of a way of thinking about art and how it continues to make money over time. Let everybody make money over time. That's my opinion.
Well, about a year and a half ago, I had Dorothy Lyman on the show, who is a brilliant actress, director. She, of course, played Naomi on Mama's Family. And when they were doing Mama's Family, the show, Joe Hamilton, Carol Channing's husband at the time, Carol Burnett's husband at the time. Carol Channing's always on the right. Carol Burnett's husband at the time came in and spoke to the cast and told the cast that if they would sign this agreement, they would get a huge chunk of money at that time. But she didn't have the agent or managerial overhead. Look at her. Contract, and she signed away basically the rights to this, and she doesn't make a dime. And the show is shown almost every single day somewhere in the country.
That's right. So that means however income is generated through the repetitions of those shows, sponsors, ad dollars, someone's making money on her work. And it should be true that she gets to share in that money. It doesn't mean that the producers don't get money, but everyone should be able to share in some way. That's the way I think it should be.
We all should share in that, and you know, and God willing that they're going to find a compromise that's going to work for everybody.
I certainly hope
so. For the good of all concerned. So
absolutely. And it's back to what you said, not to jump in, Richard, but it is really now about making a living. And if we can't make a living, then people will do other things. It's already true after the pandemic that so many people, skilled labor in technical theater, they got other jobs. They're not coming back. I hear theaters all the time saying, we can't find dressers. We can't find carpenters that know this particular craft because they took other jobs and they're not coming back. So it's tougher and tougher, like you said, to make a living in this industry. So let's try our best to make it easier.
Absolutely. Well, I want to bring on our next guest, and actually, you're going to help me do that. But
Okay.
before we do so, one of the things that I do that's so much fun that I love to do on Friday afternoons is I have, because we have 6 guests waiting, or 5 other guests waiting in the wings. I have 6 mystery questions laid out. So
Oh,
pull a number 1 through 6. I have no idea what these are because I pulled them randomly.
okay.
So pull the number 1 through 6.
Oh, me. I'm pulling a number. I'm pulling 5.
And the question is, what's the best thing about yourself and what you have brought to the table in this industry?
Wow, Richard. That's a tough one. What I brought to this, I think I would say, gosh, the thing that comes to mind right away is just my love of storytelling. My love of storytelling, that whether I'm a choreographer or a director or a writer or an actor when I was acting, it's about telling stories that lift people up. And that's what I love to do, and I'm grateful that I get to do it.
And thank God for that. So bring on our next guest.
Okay.
Pull a number 1 through 4. It's like, let's make a deal.
Oh my gosh, let's go with 1.
And that is my friend David Zimmerman.
Hello.
Hello,
I
David.
noticed I was a floating head, so
So, I have to say, David does such great work. I brought this little image up there. He recently won an award through SAG-AFTRA for the work that you do on behalf of those living with disabilities. And he has a great, great, great class that I was fortunate enough to be able to do, like a master class with everyone, called Meet the Biz, where you bring industry professionals in to talk to these actors. So first of all, welcome, meet DJ. And I'm thrilled.
Hey, DJ.
So who or what are you celebrating today, David?
The breath. Just breathing today. And plus I'm flying out to LA for 4 days, so it'll be a nice, jump back in from mellow land to Hollywood kind of thing.
Oh, the land is where it's like 96, a chilly 97 degrees.
I know.
So I saw a reporter this morning in Scottsdale, Arizona, and she says it's a chilly 97. Because this was in the morning because it was going to be 116 degrees this afternoon. Can you imagine?
I'm glad I'm not in Arizona. That's horrendous. Oh my God. Makes me want
So
to
are you going for business or pleasure?
What? Pleasure. I'm going to see the Studio One Forever premiere at Outfest.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and which has it stars Bruce Valanche, Rosalind Kind, Jerry Jewell, Charlotte Crosley.
Well, David, you know that I had them all on this show.
I know.
So I am so envious that you are going. Did you see the interview that I did with the creative team?
I didn't. I saw it was on, and then I have to rewatch it though.
Well, for those who don't know, tell them what Studio One was.
Well, it was a gorgeous big dance club, and people singing and dancing, and back in the 70s, 80s, I don't know how long it was up, but for a long time. And Mark Saltarelli, who is magic, he has actually filmed some of the Meet the Biz when we had guests come into the studio, and he's just magnificent. So I'm so excited to see his film, and it's a history. It's a history of God. I'm trying to think of the big the big dance place in New York. What's
54 below. Or Studio 54.
Studio 54.
Studio 54.
Yeah, Studio. But I know I'm do the same thing. So it's like the Los Angeles, the Hollywood version of that, I guess. But
I'll go a step further, David.
Yes.
Studio One was the precursor to Studio 54, and Studio 54 was modeled on Studio One.
Wow! See, I didn't even know this. See, I'm going to learn when I see it on Tuesday.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So the premiere is tomorrow night?
No, it's Tuesday at Outfest, and we're gonna go. You know, all my friends will be walking the red carpet, and I'll just be having fun watching and enjoying them in the limelight.
Well, please say hello to Mark for me
Oh yeah.
because he is just, interviewing him was the greatest. And I want to talk to you because I had someone on the show last week. You have been working for a long, long time with actors with disabilities. This month, TCM is shining a spotlight on many of these actors. Are you aware of that?
I was not.
And there's a great book out called "But Have you read the book?" That about how movies, the original source of the book, these movies, and the wonderful woman Kristen Lopez, who wrote the book,
Yeah.
has a disability. And I told her about you, and I said you should really come into this class, and she's interested.
Oh,
So
I would love to meet her.
and she's been all over TCM all this month. So please check out the work that they're doing if you get a chance.
Yeah.
So what's coming up with Meet the Biz?
Well, what's coming up? You know, I know sometime in the fall. We don't have a date yet, but Ben Vereen. I am so excited. I've gone back. I know, right?
Well, tell him, every time I see this man, he hugs me and says, "I'm coming on your show," and it doesn't happen. So,
well,
he's man in the business.
He's amazing. He's gorgeous, and so is his management. And even if he never does come on the show, I don't care because he is such a love. And because people he's busy, and the man's constantly working. We just had Michael Learned, who is it was a love fest. We had Sean Earl from Rent. And he was surprised by Shanice, who was on your show.
Yes.
And her husband. They were going to Sheila E.'s star on the Walk of Fame. And also Summer Cabuccio was here. And so we have a lot of surprises coming up, and we'll see, but it's all about bringing people together, disability, non-disability. We're all in this together, and that's why we're striking. Because we've got to make our money and be able to feed the family and all that. And I have, I am all loving and all that, but I don't want AI, like DJ said, to take over our jobs.
And I also want to mention, before we bring on our next guest, that once on our show, one of our Friday wrap-ups, you were here with Sherry Jewell. And we also had Steve Peters on that show. Do you remember? And we just lost Steve Peters, and that show is available in the archives. So go and check it out, everyone. But what a great light he was. And he just gave and gave and gave.
I only knew him really for 1 year. I knew of him for many years, but met him about a year ago. And his presence and his love was so incredible, and it's still with me and still with everyone whose lives he touched. And I was, at least I got to visit with him online like 3 weeks before he passed.
Wow.
With Meet the Biz, and it was a love fest, and also he was telling us about we are never alone.
That's right.
So when we feel like we're nobody's here, people are on the other side. People are here. So he was, an amazing man.
Well, we're all interconnected, whether you think you are or not, we are. So I'm going to let you, first of all, pull your mystery question, 1 through 5.
2.
And your question is, I love this. I think you got this question before. I don't know. But describe your worst date ever.
I don't think I did. Oh my God. My worst, I don't remember having a date. It's been that long. But I know I have. My worst date ever. Oh my God. Can you come back to me?
Well, while you're thinking about that, bring on our next guest, 1 through 3.
3.
Billy Terrell is here. Hello, Billy. How are you?
Hi, Richard. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you again. Can you describe your worst date ever?
Oh, boy. Well, let me say this. She wound up becoming a Catholic nun. So I don't think I was all that exciting.
Well, I want to say something that is exciting, and that's your book, The Other Side of Rock
Thank
and
you.
War. Billy is, has been in every aspect of the business as a stand-up comedian, creating music. He's written this incredible book about what his experience was coming back after the Vietnam War. In a country that was very divided. So this is a book that I recommend to everybody. You've been on the show a few times, Billy, and you're one of my favorite people in the business. So I'm thrilled that you're here. So who or what are you celebrating today, Billy?
Well, I'm actually celebrating that Sunday, the 16th, marks the 60th year that I signed my very first contract, my very first management contract to officially enter the business. I was discovered at the Empress Motel in Asbury Park, sitting in with the band, telling jokes and singing a lot of Living to Do by Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh.
And I was discovered by Clay Cole, who was the Dick Clark of New York. He invited me to New York and introduced me to Vic Catala, who at the time was managing the Bill Black combo, Elvis's backup band, and Barry Sadler, the Green Beret guy. And on July 16th, 1963, we signed. That was my first, that was it.
And it was a good contract for you.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Well, we're talking about what's going on in Hollywood right now, and I will tell you from my own position that I have been burned in this business. I have signed bad contracts. I spent 7 years in litigation trying to get out of a bad contract that I signed. What is one of the experiences that you've had in the business that was a difficult time for you, and what got you through it to the other side?
Well, I think the most difficult, but I've always kept an upbeat attitude, because always in the back of my head, what kept me going was always in the back of my head that I had survived the Vietnam War and 58,479 other poor souls didn't. So I never let this get me down. Plus, Richard, I've always enjoyed the process. Was always the biggest reward for me. Just I love the process. But my biggest downer was when I wrote and produced Rio de Janeiro by Gary Chris, which is considered one of the top classic disco records. And I really was beaten out of, I don't know how much money. I don't even want to know how much money I was beaten out of. And it was a heartbreaker because it destroyed my second marriage because I went in mentally, it bothered me. And then right along with that, right after that, I had produced a group called the Rhythm Makers, and I wrote a song called Soul on Your Side, which became Disco Nights, another 5 million seller. And because of a change in the copyright law, I lost that song too. So they were heartbreakers, because if it hadn't happened, it wouldn't have caused so much havoc in my personal life. But it never bothered me creatively. I just went on and I found different niches. And when the music changed drastically in the mid 80s, my music has always been more popular in all over Europe. But that's when I switched over to comedy, and I made a good living as a comedian for about 6-7 years. And then I came back. So.
And you're still going strong.
Absolutely.
Well, what's next for you, Billy?
Pardon?
What's next for you?
Well, interestingly, I teamed up. I have two really very good partners. One, Marvin Siegel, whose family started QVC because I did very well at QVC, putting entertainment product on there in the 90s, built a beautiful company and sold it in 2000. And a guy named Ron Perbuda. And we're hooked up with 921 Associates in New Haven. They build most of the websites and the podcasts for a lot of serious radio people. So we're developing right now a very interesting website called IamAClassic.com. And it's going to be, what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to feature a lot of anecdotes. No point trying to sell music because everybody can get it for free. But I'm going to shine a bright light on a lot of my big writer friends like Larry Weiss and John Madera and so many writers that wrote smash records. And we're going to feature backstories, bringing on great studio musicians like Paul Schaefer and other people that I work with, the backstories, and we're going to shine a light on deep catalog. Like so many writers, have these wonderful songs that never saw the light of day, and we're gonna share, a minute or so of those songs, and then talk about the development and talk about why they weren't A-sides or why they were never picked up. And I think it's going to resonate with a generation that really is intrigued by the Brill Building and 1650. And we're going to focus on the music from 1960 to 1985.
Wow.
And I think it's going to work.
It's going to work. It's going to work. I can feel it. So pull your mystery question 1 through 3, and then we'll bring in our guest.
Let's go with number 1.
And the question is, what's the best compliment that you've ever received in this business?
The very best compliment I ever received was I went to Sammy Kahn, who wrote most of Frank Sinatra's lyrics, biggest songs. And I was working with Helen Reddy. I did a Christmas album. And I said to Helen, I got a great idea. And this is when the Great American Songbook started to take root in the 90s again. I said, Helen, I want to do a 2 CD package called I've Heard That Song Before, and I want you to do all Sammy Kahn songs. And I went to Sammy Kahn, and he loved it, and he wanted to do it. And he was so excited that he went to his typewriter, and he wrote me a tribute, which I use on the screen in my show, which says, for Billy Terrell, here is the score of your. He dedicated his songbook to me. This is the score of your life, and he says, and I send it along with gratitude because you've made most of these songs sound better than they deserved. And that was just absolutely marvelous. I can't find anything that'll top it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, you're going to bring on our next guest. So door number 1 or door number 2? Billy?
Yes.
You're going to bring on our next guest. Door number 1.
I'm sorry. All right, I'll bring on number 1.
And that is Nancy Edwards.
Hello.
Nancy, I can't put your book down. And I want to tell you, I very rarely read fiction. Because I think real life is much more exciting. But this book is so great. Just let me read this. The good old boy, a shady sheriff, embroiled with backwoods criminals and greedy women, reverts to acts of family betrayal. Good Old Family immerses the reader in some of the hidden dirty secrets of Appalachian characters, twice that Appalachia came up today, and culture, and culminates in a singularly unique legal case with surprising twist. The short fiction was inspired by certain true events. Nancy, why did you decide to go the route of fiction rather than telling the story as it actually happened?
Well, I sat on this story for about 5 years. First of all, I've always been a storyteller. I was in the film business. I worked as a television commercial producer for many years. I'm in the DGA, so I'm a very sympathetic DGA member to what's going on in Hollywood. But I just love storytelling. I've always wanted to be told stories. Was put in front of a TV screen at a very early age, and I make no apologies for it. So, this story actually happened in my life, and it was easier for me after it ruminating in my head for 5 years to actually have it just come out on the page as a fiction. Back in November of 2017, I took a disturbing phone call from a family member back in Appalachia saying that my intellectually disabled cousin was in dire straits. Her mother had died a year before, and her mother was a very wealthy woman. She had told everybody that she set up her daughter's life in perpetuity, that she would be taken care of for the rest of her life. Finances were not a problem. As it turned out, the sheriff of the county where they lived had filed false paperwork regarding the woman's estate. And on an appraisal form, instead of listing all of the money that she had, because she had been a millionaire, he wrote that she had $94,000 when she died, and that would be all that her daughter would ever receive as an inheritance. So anyway, long story short, I kind of stepped in. I brought my cousin, who's intellectually and developmentally disabled, out west with me. She's safe now. She's living a great life. She's happy. And I had to deal with some really nasty characters. So I didn't want to necessarily do a true crime story and have exposure to those horrible people. The more I did research on the whole area, and I know most people don't know a whole lot about Appalachia, the region, I didn't, but it spans 13 states, including parts of New York,
That's
all
right.
the way to Mississippi, 423 counties. And this county where this happened is so remote that it takes 2 days to get to from anywhere on the West Coast, right? And when you get into these little pockets of super remote areas, everyone just kind of closes in on bad law enforcement. They protect each other. So for instance, the sheriff that I was dealing with, he also had a rapist deputy embedded in his sheriff's department. So anyway, a lot of the book is made up. The narrative is fictionalized, the characters are fictionalized, the places, the names, all of that, but there's a lot of truth in it. And I brought a lot of truth of what happens in these little pockets of very remote areas in Appalachia into my story.
Are you starting to get bites on this for either a TV series or a streaming series? Because this story lends itself so much. As I'm reading it, it's like you're such a brilliant writer, Nancy, that you create imagery that's, you take the reader right into the locations that you're writing about.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. Luckily, last week, it was so wonderful for me, and this was a big deal for me being a debut writer, that I got a great review from Kirkus Reviews, which is a very renowned, very acclaimed reviewer. So I just published the book in April. I've just begun sending it around to Hollywood. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'm all hopeful for you. I want to bring our next two guests on because they're waiting patiently. But before we do, you get to pull your question, either one or two.
Two.
And your question is, in what way do you feel that your childhood was happier than other people's childhoods?
Wow, I had a fantastic childhood growing up in the suburbs of Baltimore. In the 60s and 70s, when you could ride your bicycle on the street, we had a group of kids that would play dodgeball and roller skate every day together. Kids from 2 blocks over would come over. We had sort of the run of the neighborhood. So I feel completely blessed that I grew up. And can I just say one thing before we move on, because I said I would?
Yes.
We have a mutual friend, Mindy Fradkin of Mindy Fradkin Hats, and Mindy and I have known each other since we were teenagers, and she's
Also
a
from
mutual friend.
Baltimore.
And you were on Princess Wow's Smile Revolution a week or so ago, which is where I saw you. So I'm just delighted that we have the mutual friend. Mindy does hat happenings, and she did a hat happening at my house and then made me this beautiful hat. So I just wanted to bring that up and give a shout out to my friend Mindy Fradkin. And Mindy Fradkin hats.
I love her. She has the Smile Revolution, and no one better can create a revolution like Mindy Fradkin.
Right? Yeah, she's wonderful.
So we began the show with some great clips of Ron Aprea and Angela De Niro, who have been waiting so patiently.
Hi.
I am so thrilled. I'm sorry to keep you waiting so long. But first of all, when I got the note from Ron that this was on its way, I think it came from Ron, either Ron or yes. I never know if it's coming from Ron or Angela. So, but when that this is on its way,
Rongela. It's coming from Rongela.
because it seems like it was ages ago that the GoFundMe campaign was taking place, and but congratulations, this CD is truly one of the best CDs, and you end with one of my favorite songs in the world.
Wow.
Yes, and and it's The Curtain Falls.
Yeah.
And Bobby Darin,
Yes.
and I know that Billy, I'm going to put that out of here, but I did not look to see what songs were on here.
Wow.
Because I did something that we used to do. We used to put on an album and listen to it from start to finish. And that's what I did with this. And
Great.
it's so beautiful and so incredible. And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into that.
How did the song selection go with this?
Jesus.
Well, it's I don't know. There were a lot of different paths that took us to the end of that thing. Yeah, different places. Some of those tunes we had been doing for years with our small group. We worked with a rhythm section as well as the big band, and a lot of these tunes we were performing and were comfortable with performing with the small band. And during the pandemic, I had a little time on my hands, and I decided to take some of these beautiful tunes that we were doing and orchestrate them for the big band without any plan. It was something to keep me busy. Something I wanted to do was tunes that I loved, Gershwin tunes, and all the classics, and even the tune that I wrote, dedicated to Phil Woods. I decided to put a new suit on that one as well, and gave it a big band arrangement. And when the pandemic was over, we got together we had a rehearsal in the city, and I just wanted to hear all this stuff, and it was a thrill of my life.
And the musicians, I mean, every aspect of this, and it's big band.
Yeah. 16 pieces, eight brass, 5 saxophones, piano, bass, and drums.
But it's not old-fashioned big band, right, Richard? It's we have this this continuing conversation every time we tell somebody, oh, we have a big band. They're thinking 30s, 40s, 50s, and I want to pull my hair out. It's like, yeah, we love that big, beautiful, full sound of a big band, but it's a contemporary sound. It's got its roots in what we love, and it's coming up from the traditional great singers and everything, but it's got its own, good chordal contemporary chord sound, I would think, right?
Yeah. Recently, we had a conversation recently with a friend of ours, a radio show host, and we were talking about just this, and big bands. He was saying, yeah, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I said, wait a second. It didn't end in the 60s. Have you heard of Wynton Marsalis?
So you make some beautiful music together. What's the type of music that you listen to at home?
Pretty much this. I mean, it's a wide range. I mean, I listen to Ella Fitzgerald. I listen to John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, all the greats.
And lots of contemporary people too. I mean, there's some, it'll drive you crazy. There are some amazing young. And when we say young, it's anybody under 50. Okay. So there's some amazing up and coming musicians that are, we kid around. We had 3 legends on our album, but the whole band, they're all, future legends. They're just so amazing. They just give their whole life to their craft. They're practicing. They're committed to the music. And this is why this whole AI thing gets me crazy. It's going to take out all the creativity in people, because if you can't keep your individuality, what's the point of getting up in the morning and practicing? And
absolutely, on so many levels. And first of all, and DJ said something earlier, and it made me think about this. And I heard a young kid, to me it was a young kid, talking today on the picket line. And he said, I do background work. And he said, and we're the forgotten man that AI can come in and replace us. Mm-hmm. And when you look at these classic films that I grew up with from the 50s and the 60s, and you look at a film like The 10 Commandments, for example, mm-hmm. and you see all of those extras that worked on that film. Mm-hmm. Kathy Garver, you all know that Sissy from Family Affair was one of the small children in the 10 Commandments. And so thousands, of people were employed for these films. And now if they were to do a remake of the 10 Commandments today, all of that would be computer generated.
That's sad. It's really sad. Sad.
And it's really sad what's happening to this industry. And I'm concerned. I was, again, watching the news the other night, and he was doing a news story in which we've all gotten these spam calls, and they are taking your voice mm-hmm. and replicating it. And they actually called his mother.
It's terrible.
And with his voice to say that he was in trouble and needed money.
We have code words. No joke. My son already hipped us to this particular thing. He says, all right, we have to have a code word, a password, so it's not me. I can't believe it's come down to this, but we'll cope, because we are from generations that have learned a lot, and we've managed to even learn how to use our iPhones a little bit, and computers and stuff. And I think we'll be okay. It's just, I feel kind of sorry, because it's going to be a really, really uncomfortable period for a while. But, what are you going to do?
It's a crazy, time that we're living in, but we've got to be in solidarity on this.
I agree.
Because this affects each and every one of us who are artists and creators. And speaking of which, and this is how I like to end, I like to wrap up my Fridays. I look at all these questions that I've got here. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of books on creativity. So I've just pulled some random questions on creativity and just positivity. And let's just have a little fun with each other. And I'm going to start with you, DJ. And the question is, what was the worst date that you ever had? No, that's not it.
No, we don't have the time.
No, before we go on, Angela, I didn't ask you your mystery question.
What about Ronnie?
He's gonna get what's left over. So, Angela, I'm gonna let you pick one or two. Okay, and your mystery question is, what was the worst haircut that you've ever had?
Oh my God, I think the last one. No,
You look great.
I'll tell you, I was 16 years old. I had hair down my back, and I was doing the part in the Fantastics. I don't remember the lead part. Oh my gosh. Anyway, the lead female role in the Fantastics.
Louisa.
Thank you, Louisa. Okay, and she's supposed to have long streaming hair as per the songs that she was singing and everything. I go to the hairstylist, and he says, let's do something fun today. Right there. I had to have a little pixie haircut for my role as Louisa in Fantastics. I thought my high school director was going to kill me, but what can you do? Worst haircut.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because it gives me a chance to do a shameless plug here. On Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock. Tom Jones is my guest on the show. They're doing a revisal of the Fantastics. Do you know about this, Angela?
No, I do
And
not.
Louisa is now Louis, and the two dads are two mothers. And Tom Jones has rewritten this for it's a gay version of the Fantastics, and Tom Jones has his stamp on it. So that's really wonderful. So Ron, by process of elimination, you get the last question.
I want Billy's question.
And the question is, well, it's actually a statement. It says, get something off your chest in a loving way.
Oh no.
Oh, wow.
Free music.
Oh, God. I can get something off my chest. I'm not sure it's going to be in a loving way. We're dealing with free music. There's problems and all artists are scuffling right now. But we're inundated with free music. It's almost like people I think are feeling like music is supposed to be free because you can sit on YouTube all day long and hear the best artists and be entertained totally for free. And so CDs now, of course, are off the market. No one buys. So that my gripe is in being inundated with free music, and I think people spoil. It's almost like if you can get a house for free, why would you buy one?
Yeah.
And this is what's going on, and the business is just. I have a lot of gripes. That's my biggest right now.
But that was pretty lovely. That was
That's a good way to have, I am totally with you. So now, DJ, getting back to you, and I want to read. You mentioned this musical, "Whisper Darkly,"
Yes.
and you can tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. It's an immersive electro swing musical. My composer collaborator is Andrew Gerla, brilliant man. And we're talking to London right now about a venue that's there that was housed Peaky Blinders, the most immersive experience Peaky Blinders. It used to be a horse hospital. So we're very excited about that prospect. And the album is being released in October.
That's wonderful. And I want to recommend a great documentary that I saw last night about George Michael and Wham. Have you seen it?
No, I saw it advertised on Netflix.
It's a great film, and you really get the sense of watching the rise of an artist in this business. Their rise, the fame of Wham was 4 years. Just imagine that, just a 4-year period. And I recently had Scott Shea on the show, who's written a book about the Mamas and Papas. The entire arc of the Mamas and Papas, 3 years.
Amazing. Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing. So, DJ, the question that I'm going to ask you is, how would others describe your values?
How would others just describe my values? I think they would hold me as someone who really values honesty. They would also, I'm told this all the time, as a director, I'm told I'm the most patient director people have had because I get process. I get that it takes people time to get a character under the skin, and also each individual learns at their own pace. So I am very patient. So those are the two big ones: honesty and patience.
And those are two great ones to have. David, what small step can you take today that will put you on the path to something wonderful when it comes to your creativity?
Make a phone call to a friend who is creative and wonderful, and I somebody who I haven't talked to in a long time, who I've been thinking about, who I said to myself, make that call. So I've got to make that call.
Well, you know my closing comments, so you're a step ahead of me. So that's good. Nancy, what words describe what is important to you when it comes to the business that you're in?
Well, I just wrote my debut novel, and I spent many decades in the film industry. So, I think I'm going to apply the same thing to writing that I did when I was producing television commercials and writing and directing my documentary. Just let the impulses come as they come. You can't force anything. And I think when you're in a business long enough, you realize that. And I would go to bed some days with the most horrible problems to figure out on a shoot, and then wake up the next morning with the answer. So I'm going to do the same thing with writing. I'm going to just, let it flow, not stress out about it, and just see what creatively comes through me.
That's wonderful. Angela, if you repeated today for 100 days, would your life be better or worse?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, Richard, if I what?
If you repeat today for 100 days, would your life be better or worse?
I think it would be pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I did a lot of things I love to do today, and as long as I've got my family and music in the day, I'm a pretty content person. So it's yeah, it would be a good thing.
That's the answer I'd love to hear. Ron, and Angela's going to hold you accountable to this. Do you make New Year's resolutions? And if so, have you been able to maintain your New Year's resolutions this year?
Actually, yeah. This is one of the few years where I was definitely able to maintain my New Year's resolution, and it had to do with producing this album that we just released. That was my goal, and it worked out. It was a lot of bumps and a lot of bruises too, but it worked out. And I would say yeah.
Richard, he does everything he says he's going to do. Anytime he says something, it's like it's in stone. It's one of the traits I greatly admire about him.
That's wonderful. Well, that's the way it should be. Billy, I'd like you to name 3 people that you truly admire in this business and why. Billy? Did you hear me? Billy? I don't think he can hear me. I do want to let everyone know I have a couple of copies of this book that I'm going to give away. And in order to win the copy, all you need to do is comment with #bravery. I picked the word bravery today because I think it's very brave that a lot of artists now are standing up for what they believe in. And I was thinking about this, and as I was putting today's show together, and I'd like each of you, while we're waiting for people to comment with the word #bravery, it's a great book. You're going to all love getting a copy of it, those of you who enter. DJ, what do you think is the bravest thing that you've ever done in this business, and why?
Wow, the bravest thing I've ever done in the business? It sort of comes back to what Angela was saying about Ron. I like to consider that I'm a person of integrity, that when I say I'll do something, I do it. So even in college, I wrote a musical, and then the school chose to present that musical just because I said I'm going to do it. So that is important to me.
That's good. David, same question.
Repeat it one more time.
What do you think is the bravest thing that you've done in this business, and why?
I think it's in the business and in life. I got to Hollywood, and the first thing I said to myself is remain true to yourself. Remain true to yourself to the core, and be thyself. And that's what I've been through throughout what I do. And it gives me joy, and it keeps me centered.
So Nancy, I'm going to ask you the same question, but before I get there, I have another question that I have to ask you. Can you explain the combination of beer and apple juice?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. I worked for so many years shooting food commercials and beer commercials. So everyone is like, what's going on behind the scenes? Why does my food look so great on the TV screen, but not when I buy it at Burger King? So I know all the little secrets. And here's the one secret about beer commercials. When you see beer pouring out of a vessel, it isn't beer. It's apple juice. So people are always asking me about that. And it's one of my little secrets that I don't mind sharing.
Well, we've got to do a whole other show about that. I want to have you back. We're going to do this again.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, my next book is called Beer Pour. So if you want to talk about it,
No, we-
sometime, I'll be happy
absolutely.
to talk to you about it.
So, same question. What do you think is the bravest thing that you've ever done in this business, and why?
Yeah, the bravest thing I ever did was like leaving Maryland after 2 years of college at University of Maryland, to the horror of my parents, to actually move to Los Angeles to pursue a film industry career. So even though I'm not in the film industry anymore, I'm attempting to be a writer. That is still, the film industry is still my love, and I consider it my career. So that would be the bravest thing I ever did, to actually leave home and try to pursue a dream.
That's
Good for you. That's wonderful. I left home when I was 18 years old to pursue my career, and I will put this little shameless plug in. I have a new show, and I'm going to be in Provincetown on August 5th. So anybody, if you're going to be anywhere in the area, come and celebrate. And August 5th is actually the 44th anniversary of my arriving in New York City, 44 years to the day. At the age of 18.
You got to bring it to Los Angeles and San Francisco.
I'm ready. Call your favorite venue and request me, and I'm there. Angela, same question. What is the bravest thing that you feel that you've done in this business?
Can't he answer? Bravest, I think just getting up on the stage for the very first time and auditioning for a big band. It was totally auditioning for anything, every single time. That's always scary as anything, and yet when you're done, you feel like amazing. So that's a good for me anyway.
Ron, same question.
I think probably the scariest happening for me was getting on the bandstand with Louis Armstrong.
Wow.
Yeah, that's. I was with Lionel Hampton's band, and it wasn't a big band. It was only 3 horns, and we were playing a gig on Long Island. And Louis Armstrong was in the audience with his family. And of course, Hamp invited them up to play, and it scared the daylights out of me. But yeah, I was petrified. Louis Armstrong, my goodness, that was.
Well, can I say something? Louis Armstrong was on stage with you.
Well, I got to tell you, it was. The funny part though is that the thrill after the fear is so great.
That's it.
I know, it's amazing that
I was floating for weeks after that.
Now, Billy, you went through the Vietnam War, but in the business, what is the bravest thing that you've ever done?
Well, in my opinion, I was very, very inspired by Frankie Avalon in the late 50s. And I loved the record Venus. I felt like I had a spiritual connection to Avalon for some reason. And I felt it even in school. And in 1975, a record company that I'd been making some records for me and said that some friends of theirs wanted to help Frankie Avalon. What do I think? And I said, sign him. And they thought that I would say, what are we going to do with Frankie Avalon? Come on. And I said, and Freddie said, what are you going to do? I said, well, bring him in for a meeting and I'll tell you. So anyway, the most gratification that I felt was that they didn't want to touch the song Venus, but I convinced them to give me a chance because the disco thing was coming in. And I was one of the pioneers of disco. You can read that anywhere in the world. And I said, Frankie, I think the only shot we have is if we take Venus, and I have the arrangement in my head. We can do this new version, and I think it's going to work. Once I cut the track, he loved it. A week after we released it, it was on the charts. Within a couple of weeks, it was #1. And he had so much exposure all in 1 week week he did Merv Griffin, Dinah Shore, Mike Douglas, Midnight Special, American Bandstand, and Sonny and Cher. And that inspired Alan Carr to call him up and invite him to be in the movie Grease. And he credits me with getting him into the movie Grease. So that is just a marvelous. I can't top it.
No, but you will. You're going to top other things. I want to thank you all. You all inspire me so much. I hope you all had as much fun today as I have. Don't go anywhere for a moment, because I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word today. It could be about anything that we spoke about that you want to build upon, anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had, or just any final message that you want to leave everyone with. I talk often, wrap this.
I don't know.
When I was 13 years old, I was reading this book, The Magic of Believing by Claude M. Briscoe. And in the book, it says, set your mind on a goal like a homing pigeon and go after it with dogged determination. I was 13. It was August 5th, 1974. And I closed the book and I went and I said to my mom and dad, 5 years from today, I'm going to New York. And of course, they looked at me like I was speaking in a foreign language or speaking in tongues. As I say in my show, that's something they do a lot of in South Carolina. It could have been anything, but I did it. And the bravest thing that any of us can do is take that first step. And once you walk through that door, I mean, I was thinking about this. Next month, in just 22 days, it will be 44 years ago that I arrived in New York. I am convinced that I don't have 44 more years ahead of me. It would be nice if I did, but I don't. So it's important that we take each day and we live it to the fullest, being as brave as we can be. And, we're all in this together, but most people, and I do believe most people, want us to succeed. So it's the hardest thing is pushing aside those thoughts of what we think other people are thinking about the decisions that we make. David has already said this, but I end every show by telling all of my guests and our audiences to reach out to someone that you have not spoken to in a while. Pick up the phone. I want all of you to do this tonight. Go to your Facebook friends list and pull up the first name that pops up and reach out with a phone call. Not an email message, not a text message, not a private inbox message, but a phone call. And letting that person know that they have made a difference in your life. And if you do that, trust me, you're going to make a difference in their life. And then let's keep this as a movement that goes on and on and on. I have a dear friend, he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. And I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Nancy. And when you finish, you will pick the next person, and so on and so on. And when the last person is standing, don't worry. As soon as you say so long, the final credits will roll. I love you all, and thank you for being here. And David, you and I owe each other a phone call soon. Let's talk soon. Okay, Nancy, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you. I just wanted to thank you so much, Richard, for having me on and promoting my book. It's been a pleasure meeting everyone today, and I look forward to seeing all of you again. Happy weekend. And I personally love the natural world. That's what I'm going to do this weekend, even though it's going to be 112 degrees where I live. I'm going to enjoy the cooler moments and enjoy the hummingbirds around me and all of the natural world that I see. So may you all have that kind of peace. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, DJ.
Thanks, Nancy. And likewise, I'm very grateful, Richard, to be here and just to commune with kindred spirits. What I want to leave people with today is what it's a borrowing from a quote by a newspaperman, that what I think that theater does and most art, we comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And it's a very important thing that we do in the world. And I'll go to Billy.
think Billy's mic might be off.
Yeah.
I think so too. Billy?
Yeah, I'm here. My computer keeps kicking you off. I have to run back, but I'm back.
Oh, good. Well, you get to say anything you want to say for the closing.
Well, there's a lot of talk about AI and all of the really hampering creativity, and it's troubling for me. But I think that we need to somehow encourage the generation coming along that music and the arts and the content that will resonate and create memories going forward comes from the heart, and a computer is not going to be able to do that. We've got to put the human element back in it somehow, and I think higher education can help. I lectured at Temple University a couple of years. I created a program called Pop Songwriting, and it was very, very popular because I lectured those students on practical things to do. And a lot of good came out of it. A few of them wound up on Broadway. A couple of them wrote me letters, and they had platinum records, and they said that all the money their parents spent on the education, the only thing they were able to apply in their lives is what I told them. So I think we need more Billy Terrells who have lived through this from the classic days to encourage these young people to start thinking, more from the heart as opposed from the computer.
That's beautiful. Well, you get to choose somebody who's next.
Oh, I do. Okay. My computer's been bouncing around, so I'm gonna say Ron and Angela.
Okay, it's just Angela though, because Ron left. Anyway, I guess that the thing I want to tell everybody the most is that I have a really strong belief in people's hearts and their minds. And this whole thing with AI, it's scary. Sure, lots of things are scary, but I used to teach kids, and they were always telling me that the world was going to end at the end of the Mayan calendar. And I said, I don't think so, because being older and having that experience, you've seen everybody predict bad things all the time, and pieces of them happen, sure, but I think that we're a really, for the most part, strong people intellectually, and most importantly, we have hearts, and I think it's going to get us through. So we're just going to have to stick together, and we'll ride every storm out. I'm sure that we will. David, up to you.
Thank you, Angela. What a great show today. It's, to me, coming on here, Richard, thank you, because it's sort of like a healing, and sometimes you're not all there, or sometimes you're really there, but you help ease and bring back to heart what Angela said and several people said today. To have that heart and come from the heart and create from the heart, that is what is so important, and to keep going with the creativity. One thing I do want to end on was to answer that question that I never did, was the worst date ever. And I have to say, I don't think of it that way. I don't remember a worst date. Luckily, my mind is set in a positive mode most of the time, and I remember the positive and good things. So that is one thing that I take with me every day, to look at the positive and think about yes and rather than but. So I'm wishing everybody love and happiness and coming from the heart, and everybody going out there and spending this weekend and taking a moment to create something from your heart. Thank you so much.